kerfuffle, but as soon as that Annihilape thawed, it was over for the Frost.
There it goes.
Game 1 to the Kitakami Magic. Real slow game. We were actually getting the...
A lot of pairs, freezing up the team.
Yeah, paralysis on one end, the Frost on the other. I think that the Circhester Frost was hoping that those Icy Winds, the slowing down the opponent, was going to work out better than it actually did, but between the priority of Klefki, the constant switching out of Incineroar, also Incineroar having a priority move, and if you actually did drop the speed of that Annihilape, you're giving it a +1 attack in exchange.
That is true. Defiant is a terrifying threat.
So
I will also say, Thunder Wave does not have perfect accuracy, especially when used by a non-electric type.
Yeah, it nailed every single one of those, didn't it?
It hit all of them, and it hit all of them with its 90% accuracy, and yet we saw an Icy Wind miss with its 95% accuracy. So that's the roll of the die that we're always playing. Looks like we may see a Garchomp in the lead this turn.
Yeah, I think that the Frost they're realizing that the issue they have is their team has a lot of jack of all, master of none things. It's, as we mentioned before, seems like the team just is a conglomerate of odds and ends, so it really does need damage on demand to take out, be it the Maushold or the various supporting Pokemon, to really break through. I mean, you saw how much those blizzards were doing against Annihilape. It was a lot of chip, but not a lot of heavy one-turn damage.
Not to mention, Garchomp is one Pokemon that will not likely get paralyzed.
Yeah, that's true. He is, as a ground type, he is immune to Thunder Wave. So Maushold on one side going against Garchomp and Frosmoth on the other. There's an interesting setup. The Magic not really having a need to reposition, just you have the support of Mouse and the aura, the terror of Annihilape.
The Frost clearly set this up with the idea of they could switch as needed. If there's an Incineroar on the other side, they could switch out the physical attacker, and now if they need to, they could set up the snow. It's a little more of a flexible start from the Frost.
Yeah, good observation there. I wonder how much damage Garchomp can do to that Annihilape. The Annihilape and Maushold are probably afraid of that Frosmoth if it gets set up. So it almost makes you think that Maushold going for the beat up into the Annihilape. They want this Frosmoth gone.
This is going to be a powerful Rage Fist if it goes off.
Garchomp going for the Stomping Tantrum into that Maushold, doing a ton of damage, and Annihilape saying, "Goodbye, Frosmoth. You are not doing anything this game."
Rest in peace, Frosmoth. Was that an Ice Scales Frosmoth?
That's an Ice Scales Frosmoth. Which
So
I think that's
not going to help against a physical attack.
Not going to just. No. I think
very bulky Frosmoth against special.
I think the Kitakami Magic probably have made the read here that Ursaluna is going to stay home during this battle, and they're really going to lead into the physical Annihilape to break the back of the Frost.
It's a good strategy. Let's see if it pays off. It has so far.
All right, Ninetales coming in. Unfortunately, it is supporting itself with that snow. I believe that Ninetales is timid and probably outspeeds that Maushold, so maybe you get off the Aurora Veil, but I don't know if that Aurora Veil is going to cut the damage output of that Rage Fist enough for anything to survive, really.
Alright, the Ninetales use the protect, safe play.
Blocking that taunt. And where is this Rage Fist going into? Garchomp going for Stomping Tantrum, wanting to get rid of that Maushold, probably eliminating the Friend Guard before targeting the Annihilate, but it may be too little too late if the Annihilate is targeting that Garchomp, and down he goes.
Oof. Don't forget, that was a big part of the plan for Circhester Frost. That was its damage.
Yeah, it actually makes you think that the leads probably should have been Ninetales Garchomp, set up Aurora Veil, have Garchomp start hitting, maybe ignore the Maushold, just start hitting the Annihilate directly. 2-hit KO, maybe 3-hit KO of Stomping Tantrum or something.
Something to consider for next time.
Right, Incineroar coming in, intimidating the two remaining special attackers. Unfortunately for the Frost, these are real supporting characters, Amoonguss and Ninetales. The two damage dealers, the Frosmoth and the Garchomp, have already been dealt with. It is a real uphill battle for them.
I never say never. Double freezes have happened, alright, with Blizzard.
Yeah, you can set up Aurora Veil, you still have the Terra there, you can just click Blizzard. It is interesting that Ninetales is a Ghost Terra, so it's going to go down to the Rage Fist, but if the Annihilate...
If a Rage Powder blocks it.
Rage Powder
and
block?
We see a Terra Dark on the Amoonguss, even.
Is this... Go for the Aurora Veil, hope that the Spore goes through, maybe?
I think you only have so much snow left. Gotta use it.
Yeah, Aurora Veil, I mean, we're on turn, 3 or 4 of the battle. The move timer counting down, you can tell that the Frost just really in a tough position. Kind of has to expend their Terra as well to make sure that Ninetales can even get a move off with that fake out from the Incineroar.
That makes sense. You do not want to get faked out right now. That being said, the Rage Fist will kill. Ooh, into the Amoonguss.
And Aurora Veil is up, but is that going to be enough to block the Rage Fist? That Rage Fist is now super effective. And it's like the Aurora Veil never even went up. You can tell the magic calculated that.
This is why we put Rage Powder on Amoonguss, okay? What was the point? What was the point of it? Oh, it got... but yeah.
I mean, what's the other end of that? Is you Rage Powder, and then you can Blizzard spam, and...
Terra Dark, Rage Powder the Amoonguss, so that the Rage Fist doesn't do that much damage. And also is no longer weak to fire. And then you Blizzard, and you hope that you freeze both of them.
Right, but did you just roll those dice?
I mean, better than what just happened.
Yeah.
Hindsight is 20/20, but...
Yeah, and you can see there, not even letting the little mushroom faint. The Circhester Frost just saying, you got this, W.
GG. Well... Let it be said that Kitakami Magic, it maybe have had a rough run so far, but clearly it can perform. Not just when the conditions are right, but you know, when the heat's really turned up, Kitakami Magic should never be counted out.
Yeah, interesting. That first game, really slow, knockdown, drag out, switching in and out. And then the second game said, hey, no, I can play it slow, I can play it fast, we're going to turn this into a 5-turn game, boom, 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 Rage Fist, it is over.
You know, I think that the second game, they both knew what they were doing. Both players went in with a little more of a focused plan, but the more focused plan definitely won.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you hit the nail on the head there with the Frosmoth and the Garchomp lead being a good lead, but just not good enough. I mean,
it's a flexible lead if you can adapt to the situation at hand.
Yeah, I do think that maybe Ninetales Garchomp, or and I can't believe I'm saying this, maybe even bring Arcanine to the battle. The Intimidate will increase Annihilape's damage output, but Annihilape's not that fast.
It's not
So
that fast, and were there did the Kitakami Magic have any special attackers?
no, Kitakami Magic special attackers really comes from Bloodmoon Ursaluna
Ursaluna,
and
which we know he's
also
not bringing.
Sinistcha. Sinistcha does have access to the Gacha, which
Sure.
does a fair amount of damage actually.
Fair, though it seemed unlikely that Kitakami Magic was going to bring its 2 Ice Weak Pokemon against the Frost.
Yeah, it was pretty much going to be a physical. I'm going to resist you. I mean, even that Incineroar being a fire type was valuable into the ice, but it was also the fact that the Frost have a fair amount of physical attackers, and again, that Arcanine that has a clear amulet, it can come in against the Incineroar, lay down an Intimidate of its own, and not get its attack lowered in return.
And it can Rock Slide. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I mean, it is scary intimidating a Defiant Pokemon, but that does not mean it's over. I'm looping back there. Is Arcanine, Flare Blitz, and Garchomp, Stomping Tantrum, maybe even Rock Slide if the Maushold goes for Follow Me. But if it goes for Follow Me, it's not going for Beat Up into the Annihilape to trigger the Rage Fist stacks.
That's true. But a Bulk Up and a Drain Punch, that will also do the job. I think that the lesson to be learned from this match is that while the Circhester Frosts are flexible, they also have to be adaptable. And this game is a little more than just the typings. There is physical and special to keep in mind there. If your opponent's bringing all physical mons, you may benefit from bringing more defensive, threats, physically defensive threats. Something to keep in mind.
And I think, I believe you were casting the last time that the Frost was here. The utilization of the Amoonguss, kind of subpar, honestly. The
Amoonguss is tough to use.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it was coming up against a Taunter that had access to safety goggles in the form of that incredibly fast Maushold, but I mean, you could see a world where they wanted to use that Maushold to clear Smog away, bulk up boosts of that Annihilape, but by the time that Annihilape gets a bulk up boost, the Amoonguss is going to take some pretty heavy damage.
That is true. I personally think that Amoonguss's 2 strongest moves, also its powder moves, are Rage Powder and obviously Spore. And if you're not using them, you're not really getting the full value of Amoonguss.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well pick a different Pokemon at that point.
Yeah, that's true. So who would you say is the MVP of the night?
I would have to say, well, I mean, it feels like there's only 2 options, and it's kind of an Ouroboros. Is it Annihilape for being the damage dealer that can seal the game, or is it Maushold being able to just taunt the opponent and then side beat up, activating the Annihilape? I mean, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna give it to Maushold because those taunts genuinely shook up the game. They stopped the Circhester Frost in its tracks.
Yeah, what was that? 3 taunts in that second game? I may be mixing up game 1 and game 2, where it immediately boxes out the Frosmoth in game 1. It does taunt the Ninetales at one point in game 1, though I'm not sure if it did prevent it from protecting. We actually see the text box from the Frost that they clicked protect, and the tooltip says you cannot do this, you are taunted. And then the Amoonguss gets taunted twice in game 1.
Yes, it was pretty much shut out. It was forced to just Pollen Puff for game 1.
Yeah, it Pollen Puffs into that Ninetales. Yeah, you know what? As much as Annihilape was the massive damage dealer and racking up those KOs, it did so off of the back of Maushold really just invalidating all of those non-damaging moves from the Frost. And I do want to say that special shout out to the Klefki in that game one. 3 Thunder Waves. It probably won them the game in an understated fashion, right? Just you now have speed control over the entire game. The Palafin has to click Jet Punch. The Magic were probably going to win regardless, but Maushold is the MVP, but Klefki, Reflect and Thunderwave, just really good.
It did paralyze, 3 out of the 4 Pokemon on the Circhester Frost.
Yeah, and Palafin couldn't attack twice, and I believe Ninetales failed. No, Amoonguss failed an attack because of the paralysis.
Ultimately, the Magic's the best part of the Magic is that it has 3 incredibly disruptive supportive Pokemon. The worst part of the Magic usually only has 1 big attacker, but when it works, it works.
Yeah, and also this was probably the first time we really saw the no Trick Room mode from the Magic. So, kudos to them.
That's true. Interesting development here, but glad to see Kitakami Magic finally shine in this league.
Yep, so this will be the last time that we see the Frost and the Magic during the regular season. We will be seeing them in the postseason. Our match for next week is going to be a Scarlet Conference match between the Glaciata Rangers, nice little balanced team there off the back of Volcarona, and the Blueberry Hurricanes, the lone Pelipper Rain team in our format here. Who are you looking at for between the Rangers and the Hurricanes, Wiz?
That's a tough question. I'm gonna say I think the Hurricanes. With the rain is always a tricky beast. Hard to stop once the rain is set. So I'm gonna put it at the rain. I'm gonna give it to the
2-1 Hurricanes.
Yeah, the Hurricanes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a 2-1 game. I'm favoring the Hurricanes, but I think the Rangers are going to make them fight for it. If you are still watching, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next battle. Thank you.
All right,
Good night.
We'll see you then. Good night. Oh,
What?
when you said you have the ring to prove it, I should have said let's get into the ring. Damn, duh. That was a golden opportunity for a ring pun.
Wiz, that was 50 minutes ago.
Oh man, I'm gonna be up all night punching the air.
Were you holding on to that the entire video?
I've been seething, trying to fit that in.